Thanks for joining us as we continue our coverage of the search and rescue operation from a sunken ferry off Korea's southwest. It's Monday, April 21st here in Seoul, and I'm Choi Yoo-sun. It's been more than 5 full days now since Korea's worst ferry disaster in 2 decades, and with search and rescue operations continuing through the day and into the night. Unfortunately, no survivors have been found since the first day, and the death toll continues to rise. Let's go live to our Hwang Sung-hee and Ji Myung-il standing by at Paengmokang Harbor, which is just 20 kilometers from the accident scene. Guys?
Yusan, another body has just been retrieved a few hours ago, raising the total death toll to 65. The body has yet to be identified, but it is believed to be a female high school student. Now, the body was found on the 4th floor of the vessel, and that's where the cabins are, and it's where most students were believed to have been at the time of the accident. Rescue teams are currently focusing their search on the 3rd and 4th floors of the vessel.
And that's right. And there's nearly 240 people that are still missing from the sunken Sewol-ho ferry. And nearly 90% of those are from Tanon High School in Ansan. Family members of the missing took a boat ride to the site of the sinking a few hours ago, which must be a very heart-wrenching trip for them. Now it's getting dark out there, but we presume search operations will continue.
Yes, search and rescue operations will continue throughout the night as divers will be working around the clock. Flares and fishing boats with powerful floodlights will help the divers operate in the dark. In addition to the 5 guide ropes that have been attached to the sunken ferry, they added one more, securing another route to the inside of the ferry. More than 200 Coast Guard ships and Navy vessels, 13 fishing boats, 35 aircraft, and more than 500 divers have been deployed today. 2 remotely controlled submersibles are also searching inside the sunken ferry with the help of 2 U.S. experts.
That's right. The weather conditions tonight seem favorable, with winds reaching up to 5 meters per second and tidal waves reaching the 1 meter level. This was Ji Myung-il and Hwang Sung-hee live from Paengmokang Harbor.
In the days that immediately followed the Sewol-ho ferry accident, search and rescue efforts were seriously hindered by fast-moving tidal currents. But thankfully, conditions are expected to improve this week, which should help divers navigate through treacherous waters near the sunken vessel. Park Ji-won has more.
Calm waves and clear skies. Wind speeds and wave heights were cut in half on Monday compared to the previous day as a high-pressure front moved into the area. Weather conditions have finally turned favorable for search and rescue crews in waters off Jindo Island, and the clear weather is forecast to continue through this Friday. Strong tidal currents, which significantly hampered the rescue operations last week, have also slowed.
Last week was the time when the current speeds were the fastest, and from the 19th it has been slowing down. Starting this Tuesday, the speeds will be at their slowest.
Last week, the maximum speed of the currents in the area were 2.8 meters per second, or over 10 kilometers per hour. That's expected to drop as low as about 1 meter per second, especially from this Tuesday to Thursday. When tidal currents slow, underwater visibility improves with less floating particles in the sea. That's why experts believe this week will be a turning point in search operations inside the sunken Sewol-ho ferry. Park Ji-won, Arirang News.
With many more clues emerging about what might have caused the Sewol-ho ferry to sink, the puzzle is slowly being put together. Our Kim Min-ji reports on the 3 knock-on factors that experts suspect caused the ferry to capsize.
Around 8:30 a.m. on Wednesday, April 16th, the Sewol-ho ferry passed through treacherous waters, which are notorious here in Korea for their strong currents. 18 minutes later, the ferry veers suddenly, which is being pointed to as the first factor in the sinking.
What it means by the vessel supposedly making a P-turn is that the helm was turned to the right, then back again. But the boat didn't come back to its original position. Operations momentarily froze. which results in the ferry making a complete turn.
Due to centrifugal force, the vessel tilts to the left. Now this is when the second factor may have come in. Grips holding down on the ferry's freight may have come loose, causing containers and vehicles in the cargo compartment to lift sharply to one side. The weight concentrated on just one side of the ferry causes it to tilt even further. If the vessel had enough dynamic stability, the vessel could have bounced back to the other side and maintained balance. However, due to renovations to increase the vessel's capacity, the center of gravity on the ship had been raised from its original design.
Due to the expansion of the ship, the upper structure has been changed, making the center of gravity much higher. If the center of gravity and buoyancy are far apart, the dynamic stability decreases.
Experts say the reduced dynamic stability caused the vessel to completely submerge because it wasn't able to recover from the initial tilt. They add that the Sewol-ho ferry may not have had enough ballast water, which maintains the balance of the vessel in order to carry more cargo. As all three factors could have been prevented, experts say the sinking will likely be attributed to human error. Kim Min-ji, Arirang News.
President Park Geun-hye has spoken out in no uncertain terms about the captain and crew of the sunken Sewol-ho ferry, saying their actions on the day the ship capsized were akin to murder. She also had something to say about public officials who have been criticized for their rescue efforts. Yoo-An reports.
먼저 무엇보다 선장과 일부 승무원들의 행위는 상식적으로 도저히 납득할 수 없고 용납될 수 없는 살인과도 같은 행태였습니다.
Likening the act to murder, President Park Geun-hye criticized the actions taken by the captain and his crew at the time of the accident during a meeting with senior secretaries on Monday. A communications log had revealed that the captain and crew members of the Sewol-ho ferry had called on passengers to stay where they were during the time of the accident. President Park vowed to make sure justice is handed down.
저는 반드시 단계별로 철저하게 규명해서 무책임과 부조리, 잘못된 부분에 대해서는 강력히 책임을 물을 것입니다.
The captain and two other crew members are now charged with negligence of duty and violation of maritime law. President Park also had pointed words for public officials, some of whom have been facing criticism for inadequate efforts in rescue operations.
국민들이 공무원을 불신하고 책임 행정을 하지 못하고 있다는 비난을 받는다면 그 책무를 소홀히 하고 있는 것이고 그 자리에 있을 존재의 이유가 없는 것입니다.
During the days following the accident, families of the victims grew furious at the government-related personnel and also the Coast Guard for making conflicting announcements on the number of victims and survivors. The families also expressed frustration that the numbers of rescue personnel dispatched to the site and the numbers announced by the government did not match up. Yoo-An, Arirang News.
While the nation mourns and prays for some positive developments, there are those taking advantage of the horrible tragedy still unfolding in the southwest of the nation. Authorities are warning the Korean public not to be deceived by latest text messaging scams. The Science Ministry said it has so far identified 7 kinds of smishing scams using text messages that lure people into phishing sites that extract personal data. It warned people not to click on any links sent to their mobile phones and to immediately delete these messages since they could be embedded with malicious codes. The government and police also say they will hunt down and punish those who post false information on the internet regarding the ferry accident. Investigations are underway to find out what exactly happened before the ship sank. But testimonies vary, and it's too early to tell which information is credible and which are not. With more on this, we go to our Song Ji-san standing by at the news center. What's the latest in the investigation into the ferry's operator, Ji-san?
Well, Yusun, the joint investigation team has acquired mobile message records from over 400 people, including the passengers, crew, and related personnel on board the ferry. They're being pulled from KakaoTalk, the most popular messenger application used by almost every Korean with a smartphone. The investigation into these messages may shed some light on the timeline of events. Officials will also look into what kind of messages the crew had been exchanging, but they were also communicating by radio walkie-talkies before most of them evacuated to the bridge of the ship and boarded the very first rescue helicopter and boats. Some parents of the missing have also been claiming that they received messages from their children after the ship sunk, but it's not confirmed whether they were from mobile messengers or text SMSs.
We'll hope we can get some leads from those messages. And as we dig deeper into the ferry operator, it seems like there were more than enough factors that jeopardize a safe trip for the Sewol-ho ferry.
You're right, Yusan. The joint investigation team early in the day received arrest warrants for 4 additional crew members. This comes after 3 crew members, including the captain, were arrested over the weekend. The investigation team has also imposed travel bans on 44 employees of the ferry operator, the Cheonghaejin Marine, including its president, the former chairman of its parent firm, and his 2 sons, who are the biggest shareholders of the company. Now this group, almost a conglomerate with extended companies, is under probe for various accounts, including massive funds stashed overseas. The company is accused of expanding the capacity of Sewol-ho ferry to a level that made it lose its balance during sail and loading too much cargo and not fasten the vehicles and containers properly, all things that could have led them to fall out and sink the ship. In the meantime, one of the engineers of the ferry that was questioned by investigators attempted to hang himself this morning. His colleagues stopped him before he did so. He's in stable condition now.
And speaking of the crew testimonies vary and the information provided is puzzling to say the least.
That's right, we have new information that puts what the captain of the Sewol-ho ferry has reportedly told authorities into doubt. Did the crew tell passengers to evacuate from the sinking ship? That's still being questioned, but chances are they did not. Now this, according to an analysis by a phonetics professor at Chungbuk Provincial University. On Saturday, the captain told reporters that he did tell passengers to leave the ship, but experts say his tone was relatively weak at the moment he said those words, suggesting he was unsure about the integrity of what he was saying. In the meantime, the first mate did say that he did hear an order from the captain telling passengers to evacuate, but it's not known whether that order was actually announced through the ship.
Way to go. Before finding out the truth, it seems a bit too late, but the government also announced measures to prevent such disasters, taking lives of young students. This comes after President Park Geun-hye ordered a thorough investigation and measures to beef up trust from the general public.
That's right. The Education Ministry announced this evening that no field trips should be arranged this first semester until a complete measure preventing such tragedy is prepared. This agreed by 17 provincial and city offices of education. In fact, there were always potential risks in mass field trips organized by Korean schools, where students of an entire grade, numbering several hundreds in total, travel at once. The ministry said it will devise and distribute safety manual for field trips traveling by plane or ships. Back to you.
The families of the missing are now into their 6th day of waiting for any news of their loved ones who were on board the ill-fated ferry. They have been camping out in an auditorium near the accident site in Jindo, where Hwang Ji-hye joins us live. Ji-hye?
Yes, Yusan, I'm here at the Jindo Auditorium, and this afternoon a briefing took place here at the auditorium explaining to families about the latest developments of rescue operations by Coast Guard and military. The representative of the families told the others that he asked authorities to wrap up search and rescue operations by this Thursday. He said the authorities pledged to do their best to meet the deadline. As to complaints from the families that the oil spill is damaging bodies, the representative said that using chemical products to stop the oil spill could worsen conditions when it comes to preserving the bodies still trapped in the water. He went on to say the first priority is still rescue operations. Yusan?
Ji-hye, how are the families dealing with the grief?
Well, families here are really losing hope. Now, I told you earlier that Prime Minister Chung Won has held closed-door meetings with the representatives of the families to discuss about whether to refloat the sunken Sewol-ho ferry. While many still believe their missing loved ones are alive, hopes are fading for many, and now they just want to preserve the bodies. They're afraid that if refloating the submerged ferry using cranes does not take place soon, they won't even be able to recognize the faces of their sons and daughters. Experts say bodies trapped inside the sunken ferry could start decomposing as early as after 72 hours. Here at the auditorium, families are trying to stay calm, but from time to time, cries of grief fill the auditorium. Many of the families have been staying here, living here basically since last Wednesday. They look very, very exhausted, with some even fainting. This was Hwang Ji-hye reporting live from Jindo Auditorium.
Bodies that are first transferred to Mokpo Hanguk Hospital nearby the accident site are identified and then released to their families in Ansan. We now connect live to our Connie Kim, who's standing by at the Korea University Ansan Hospital, where many of the deceased have arrived. Connie, what's the latest?
Hi, Yusan. I'm currently standing by at the funeral hall of Korea University Ansan Hospital. Now, 6 of the deceased that have arrived from Mokpo still lie here, with 5 of them expected to be released to their families earlier tomorrow morning. A joint incense altar will be set up for the Danon High School students located in Ansan Memorial Hall, which is about 10 minutes away from here. Friends and relatives will be able to pay their respects there starting Wednesday. Parents of the deceased have delayed releasing their children after requesting an autopsy to find out the direct cause of death. They want to know whether their children died from drowning or from hypothermia after waiting inside an air pocket in the vessel. This is critical in determining whether the government was fast enough with their rescue operations, and parents say they'll hold the government responsible if this was not the case. Also, parents of the children on board the sunken Sewol-ho ferry will announce an appeal in front of Danon High School, urging for swift rescue operations and criticizing the media for indiscriminate report on this incident. The bodies of 8 victims from this tragedy were released to their parents today, and the city of Ansan continues to grieve for those it has lost so suddenly and so tragically.
Connie, it has to be a traumatic time for everyone there. How about the students who survived this horrible ordeal? How are they holding up?
Well, currently there are 81 patients receiving medical treatment here in this hospital, and according to the director of the hospital, he says that many of the patients that have suffered mental distress and depression have gotten better. However, they will continue to monitor them, saying that one out of 4 students are not sleeping well, and that about 20% of them will need psychological therapy. After monitoring their status, the hospital will decide whether students can return to their daily lives within the next 3 days or so. A team composed of experts from the welfare, education ministries, the city of Ansan, and Gyeonggi-do province will continue to look after them. This was Connie Kim reporting live from Korea University Ansan Hospital.
The Sewol-ho ferry tragedy has hit Danon High School especially hard, as more than 300 of its students went on board the vessel when it capsized. The school will reopen its doors this week for sophomores and seniors who will be met with the help of professionals who will guide them through the most difficult moments of their lives. Our Kwon So-ah has this report.
Despite still being in severe shock, students of the Danon High School in Ansan will be returning to their classrooms this week. Laughter and joy filled the ship when it departed on a school trip to Jeju Island, but now there are only tears left. The Sewol-ho was carrying 325 students from Danon High School in their junior years. The school has temporarily closed twice since Wednesday, the day of the incident, but there were concerns from parents of sophomores and seniors who asked that students be able to return to their daily routines as soon as possible. The Gyeonggi Provincial Office of Education held a briefing Sunday and announced its plan to reopen the school this Thursday. When students return, the focus will be on helping the students cope with the traumatic events of the past several days.
We will primarily progress with a therapy program to help the students recover from the mental shock, and will gradually return to usual class schedules.
There are currently around 100 doctors and therapists ready to help at the high school. The students of Tanwon High School are also grieving over the death of their vice principal, who was rescued from the Sewol-ho ferry but later committed suicide over apparent feelings of guilt. Experts worry that many students will be affected by post-traumatic stress disorder, which can occur even years after a shocking incident occurs. Kwon So-ah, Arirang News.
The terrible loss of so many young souls has plunged the entire nation in deep sorrow and despair. In respect to the victims and the still missing, TV stations have canceled entertainment shows, baseball and soccer matches are being played in silent stadiums, and the public have masked for candlelit visuals. Our Sewol-ho reports.
An accident that has left so many in disbelief. People all over the country had their eyes and ears fixed on news of the ferry disaster. It was to share the weight of the tragic accident and console families who were told by their children that they love them and that they shouldn't worry. Weekend prime time. Laughter has faded from what would normally be a fierce entertainment competition between the major television networks. With one of Korea's favorite sports, baseball season in full swing, all the loudspeakers and cheerleaders have disappeared from the stadiums. All that is left is the players who solemnly play without any cheering or events. People in Korea are sharing the pain as if it is a loss of their own, something the country has experienced in times of need.
I wanted to help in any way that I could, so I joined the candlelight vigil. I really hope that with the whole country coming together, that a miracle will happen.
During the 1997 Asian financial crisis, the Korean public donated their wedding rings and other gold items to help the country pull out of the economic crisis. And after one of the worst oil spills off the Taean coast in 2007, the area was able to recover its nature after an endless number of volunteers helped clean up the spill. Regardless of whether it is for good or bad times, the nation has been able to come together, setting individual needs aside and sharing a spirit of unity.
Korea has a strong collective sentiment. This is something that is just as important as collective intelligence. The entire country is sharing the sentiment that the students in the sinking are not simply children of other families, but actually part of an extended family. This is the force that brings the country together as one.
서미소랑, 아리랑 뉴스.
We now connect live to our Kim Bo-kyung at the Weather Center. Bo-kyung, any updates on the weather?
You saw not much, but it's a relief that the sea conditions continue to remain calm. This is because tomorrow through Thursday is when we will get neap tides. During then, the speed of tidal currents will go down to their slowest. Until now, tidal currents moved at about 2.8 meters per second, but during a neap tide, it should go down. It should slow down to as slow as a meter per second. Well, at the moment, it's about 12.7 degrees on Chindo with cloudy skies, and it's beginning to look a bit misty. Otherwise, the sea temperature on Chindo is now at about 11.9 degrees, and waves are calm at about 0.6 meters. Earlier today, wind speed went up to about 9 meters per second, but that is now going down. Now, tomorrow, the best time for rescue operations will be at these hours, since the speed of tidal currents will be at their slowest. Other than that, for Tuesday, the weather conditions on Jindo look to be similar to today, with strong winds blowing at 5 to 8 meters per second, and waves will continue to remain calm at 0.5 to a meter. That's all for now, and back to you, Yusan.
Thank you, Bo-kyung. And that's all we have for you this hour. Stay with us for more on day 6 of the sunken ferry search efforts on our next newscast at 9 p.m. Korea time.